This is the first of three presentations in which we will try to give you an idea of what we are doing about quality of life. Of course, I ask you if you are ready to run, because in a very few time I want to give you an idea what we are doing. Of course, we know that our job, our work is very complex, and we have to do the things in a logical and effective way. So, just to see that when we try to perform an ISP involving the person in our ISP, we have to pass from assessment to outcomes. And as Alice has told us, that outcome is not is just a conceptual element, but is a very practical. And the perception of persons with disability and their families are so important to describe if we have been able to help them. Sometimes, and the most of times, usually, we do a lot of things, but those things are not aligned towards the outcomes of the person. So, at the beginning of our, I would say, the revolution of our change, we took inspiration from Bob Sherlock, who is one of our mentors, and to revise all the ISP procedures, we had this brief sentence in our mind, beginning with the end in mind, with a clear idea where we want to go. And simplifying this is quality of life is really what we think is the real outcomes. We do a lot of things. We try to change functioning. We try to change disease. We try to change many things. But the exact way to understand what is an outcome is quality of life of people and their families. So, I don't want to describe all of these, but just to see that it is a complex approach, and what is important for the person and what is important to the persons are very good information we have to collect in order to develop a list of activities, and the outcomes, particularly the personal outcomes, are the most important ones. Just that when we try to do these things, we collect a lot of data, and we are trying not to leave all the data in the files, but to use them. And so we have had the help of a computerized system just to consider and classify each of the information. But I want to go on. So we have introduced the concept of the matrices. A matrix is a way by which we try to collect and classify data. So in the next 2 or 3 slides, I'll try to explain the core, the heart of our procedures. I want to just to focus their attention on this. You can see, and the first line on the top of the slides, there are the 8 quality of life domains by Bob Sherlock and Miguel Verdugo Alonso and so on. This is the model we have explored and we have tried to introduce into practice. What you see, that personal well-being, emotional well-being, and so on, it's quite easy to find this in the literature. And I think that everyone is confidential with this approach. What you see that on the first column, you see all the kinds of information we need to get results at the end of this matrix. The quality of life objectives. This is not a linear process. Usually, we were used to see what functions and what does not function, and to define objectives in order to support what is not functioning. But with this matrix, which is with the first important step of our procedure, you see that we have to extract the information for our assessment instruments in order to classify them, in order to have sense and meaning for the quality of life domains. So at the end of each column, there is the possibility to confront, to elaborate what is really important in terms of quality of life objectives along the quality of life domains. So at the end, when we define objectives, each of the objectives is really aligned to quality of life domains, and it is the right mix of information taken out from our assessment variables. So it is not a linear process, but it's a more complicated but more efficient way to define objectives. The second one, don't worry about this, but it's the concept, it's quite easy. It's like to think that we have to put in order all the information we have. You have lots and lots of information. We don't use them in the right orientation. So you see that on the left-hand side, I can go just a bit. This on the first column, you find a system, a list of categories by which we can classify also the supports. There are different ways to classify supports. Of course, you can classify supports by who is responsible of supports. You can classify supports by using the kinds of activities. In there, you can find the 11 categories system of classification of supports proposed by Bob Sherlock. But there is many other ways. For instance, maybe we are going on to classify supports using the ICF components. Each supports may be classified as oriented to support function in a specific components of activities. So this is very important because we are moving towards conceptualizing supports as a variable, a system of variables. And this is very important because if outcomes are variables, we have different scales to measure, to profile quality of life, and we have supports as a system of variables. We can begin to explore the correlations between classified supports and outcomes. And the first row, of course, they are reported. We have just finished a study in Italy with more than 1,300 people with disability, developmental and developing disabilities, and so we have now 1,300 matrices, ecological matrices as the one before, and support matrices, and we have begun to explore the connection and the correlations between supports and outcomes. So it's quite easy that you can see in this that if we have in the matrix, we have classified the values of assessment variables, the values of supports classified as attributed to specific categories, we can manage the whole processes from assessment to outcomes. So this is a metaphorical image of my desktop. Everything's on the desktop. We have lots and lots of information. We have information about what is already going. So it's difficult to think that when we begin again with a new ISP, there are no previous supports. Probably they do not know, the professionals and the persons do not know exactly where the support is oriented to which is the quality of life domains is oriented these supports. But so With the matrices, we have tried to manage, we have tried to, yes, thank you, we have tried to manage the all the process. And so I don't want to, but you will see with Sabrina and with Marco, we will see two things. How, at the personal level, we have tried to monitor and manage all the process from the beginning, assessment, to the outcomes, quality of life outcomes, by classifying the ecological variables to produce objectives and to manage supports to promote change towards function, of course. But you know that sometimes, many times, it's not enough to increase the functioning. We have to recombine functioning in order to have a better quality of life. So this is what maybe is my desktop after the matrices, as we call them, as they call the operators, who are able to use this after they have classified all the data. So this is not fantasy. This is also it's not a conceptual framework only, but it is a computer program, very easy to manage, and just very quickly to see that we can do everything from the beginning to. So you are able to, if we would have time, you could understand where are the matrices, because all the information are classified, of course, and recorded. And so at the end, this is very important, and I will close on this one. You can see that in the two diagrams, the before and the first one, the second one, the two columns reveal that before using the quality of life approach and after using the quality of life approach, supports changes. There is a recombination of supports. The blue one before and the black one after. You see that if you classify supports by domains or by the list of categories, you understand that something is really changing. And all the objectives now are linked to quality of life domains, and there is a recombination of supports. Just to finish, we have a lot of ingredients. The ingredients are the informations we have every day and we collect every day, but this is not enough to make a good outcome, a good pizza. So at the end, just this one, this is when Marco will tell us something more at the end. This is the one of the outcomes of our research just finished. You see the orange lines and the blue one. You see that, and on the circle you find the 8 quality of life domains. This is an aggregation of data suggesting that before the orange one and after with the blue one, before using the matrices and after using matrices, the development, the geography of supports changes. Before we do some things, after we do the same things, but involving a lot of informal supports at spending the same money. All the objectives and the activities are directed towards quality of life of the person. Of course, this is the personal level. We are developing new perspectives at the organization and community level. Thank you very much.